I mean, even right now, like my advice would be if you want to be in your classroom and you want to be decorating, go do it. So if that brings you joy, go do that. As teachers teaching a lot of these students for the first time, we're looking for those things. We're looking, do they have someone that they're feeling connected to? When they go down to lunch, is there a person that they're sitting with when we're out at recess? I had a year where this was a really boy-heavy year. And so with that, I was like, okay, our read aloud is totally changing, and we're gonna be taking some movement breaks throughout class.
Welcome to Rethink Time, the podcast brought to you by Time Timer. We'll explore how we teach, support, and experience time in the classroom, in therapy spaces, and in everyday life. Time is something that everybody has to navigate, whether you're a teacher or you're a parent or you're just somebody that struggles managing time yourself. We're going to be interviewing experts in the fields of education and neurodiversity to share real life strategies that you can use every day. And that way, time feels more understood to everyone in your life. Welcome to this episode of Rethink Time. I'm Kristen Barbercheck, and today we're going to be talking about back to school transitions for teachers, students, and families. We're in the height of that season. There's a lot of anxiety and activity and nervousness, and we're going to kind of dive into some of the things that we can do from each of those viewpoints and to help aid in that transition. And I'm really excited about our guest today. My guest is Erin Beers. She is a middle school teacher here in the Cincinnati area. She has 25 years in the classroom with experience, and she creates content and tutors as well. Is that correct?
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into education?
Yeah, so I guess it was my senior year in high school. Probably like a lot of high school students have no idea what they want to do at 17. So I think it was our counselors who gave us some sort of career and readiness assessment and kind of determined that education might be a good fit for me. And so that was how I went into all of my college applications with just elementary education. And graduated and got my first job teaching 5th grade. And so never really looked back.
Yeah.
So I've been teaching, so this will be my 26th year, which is crazy.
Wow.
I've taught 1st grade, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
You've had
not
the
2nd and
the
3rd,
range
but
of ages.
So I truly love being in the classroom. I thought for a while I might want to be a principal and got my master's in administration, but I love being in the classroom.
Right.
So I think that will just kind of be where I stay until I retire one day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Knowing what you like.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's going through, what stands out when a new school year starts over?
It's kind of crazy. I feel like summer, somehow 11 weeks of summer fly by. And here we are towards the end of July now and ready to head into the school year. I think teachers are in all kinds of different places. You know, if you have brand new teachers, they're like itching to get in their classrooms and, do everything they can to get set up. And then you may have some veteran teachers that are going to be coming in that very first day of in-service, setting up and doing all that. But just kind of in a lot of different places, from buying materials and supplies for the classroom to kind of getting in whenever you can, just so that it's ready to go when kids come back.
What kind of shapes the tone for the new year for you?
There's lots of things. So I've been fortunate in the district that I teach, where I've had my own kids certain years. So that's kind of been fun, where I get to, know a lot about their friends and, what's coming into me, their experiences and what they're loving. But this year, this is like my first year where my youngest is an 8th grader. So a lot of these students are really new to me. So getting to know the kids and figure out all the sort of ins and outs and the things that interest them. So that's kind of what we're sort of working on in those first couple of days as we bring the kids back to the building.
What are you started to talk a little bit about it already, but what are teachers really navigating right now? Just knowing the back to school is coming. And has that changed over the years that you've been teaching?
Not necessarily. It's funny. I just had a conversation with another individual about the inundation of information that parents are getting, just with emails from school and school supplies have been, I think, stocked up since right after July 4th. So I think there's just a greater awareness. Things are shifting a lot more quickly. The preparedness, is more so, I think, than it ever has been. So I think right now we're kind of in the few weeks before we kind of get into that inundation of all the emails to parents, like letting them know, like, in case you didn't know, here's the back to school lists and the days when your kids can kind of come in and set up their locker or meet their teacher. So I think a lot of that stuff is kind of starting to be getting ready to be sent out.
Yeah. I mean, this is reminding me of when I had back to school days. So it doesn't seem like it's changed too much.
Not too much. The difference is now, though, like we have the access with all the apps. So like things are constantly being sent to our phone and to our email. And when maybe you and I were in school, things would come home in a backpack and we could hang that backpack up on a hook. And now we can't really do that because things are constantly being brought up and sent in some sort of notification digitally.
Wow. So let's talk about like the classroom, when setting up the classroom, getting the classroom ready for back to school. What is your focus the first few days of school?
It's funny, we were talking about this at the end of last year, and I was like, oh, I hope August me isn't going to be really mad at May me when I just was shoving things in cabinets and things like that. But really, it's kind of just getting organized, kind of knowing last year how we finished up the school year. So I usually try to set some different goals. So like, what do I wish looked different or I did differently, or what's a different goal I have for my students this year? Then just kind of easing into that. So I don't know, it could be something with adding more memoirs because that's how we start our year with 7th grade reading. Just little things like that. So kind of thinking about what can I do to enhance what, we maybe did last year. Yeah. So it's kind of thinking when I come into my classroom, it's really kind of getting everything organized and set up, not buying a whole lot because I'm in year 26 at this point, but just kind of getting my room set up in a way that I'm excited to be there and so are my students. Was
that different on the years that you had to switch grades? Because you said you've taught so many different grades.
I mean, I taught 6th and 7th for a long amount of time. But yeah, I mean, different grades absolutely present different things and I'm not having to move my classroom. So if you don't have to move your classroom, it's really a glorious thing. And in my district, they don't make us take things off the walls and things like that. So we can kind of go in and get our bearings and get set up. So I'm pretty fortunate.
That is good.
Definitely.
So what routines are the first to kind of get established when the kids start coming back to school?
Yeah. So our the first couple days, I'm also in a district where we typically start on like a Wednesday. So it doesn't feel, there's 3 days that we have to get through and navigate. So it doesn't feel so overwhelming for an entire 5-day school week. I know not every district is like that, but for our students, with my team, it's really like building connections, like learning the kids' names and making sure that we know something about them so that, those are conversations that we can be having right away. So kind of knowing what they're interested in and kind of helping them to get involved so that they feel connected to school. So I think that's really our biggest mission in those first couple of days, helping them feel organized. So when they come in with their big old bags of supplies, kind of working with like executive functioning. So we're going to organize your binders. We're going to make sure that you have your locker set up, know how to get in your locker. Yeah. So really it's just kind of connection and organization. That's really kind of our big focus in just those first couple of days.
So what have you learned about moving students through the transitions during the actual school day? Like once they're there, how do you get them to move through those transitions? I mean, you're in middle school now, right? Yeah. So that transition, do they actually have to move classrooms and that kind of stuff too?
Yeah. So even with our 7th graders, we'll have them write out their schedule because oftentimes some of these digitized schedules that come out, they're very confusing. So we're going to set that up and we're going to set up your planner so that you know where you're coming, where you're going, most importantly, when lunch is. Yeah. In 7th grade, we have recess. So just kind of letting the students know, these are going to be the times of your day where you're going to get, specific and designated breaks so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. So really just kind of helping them understand what the schedule is going to look like and feel comfortable and confident with it. That's really kind of what our focus is with those transitions, because I think when they come in after a summer of just fun and they're sitting there like, oh no, this is the next 185 days. We try to make it so that it's manageable for them.
How long does it usually take them to get to that point to actually feel comfortable back into that different routine?
I mean, it's funny because I feel like we get them Wednesday through Friday, those first 3 days, we're in a great little routine. And then sometimes, it's like starting back over again on that Monday when we come back. But it really just kind of depends, different students, different years. But again, I have the beauty of teaching middle school. So they've done this many years in a row and they kind of know what to expect and what the expectations are of them. But it's not always easy. Yeah,
I imagine that would be very difficult.
Yeah.
I just remember from my own experience, like growing up in those first few weeks of school. I mean, I can still feel, and I'm sure many adults can still feel that like feeling of that first day of school, like going into it.
Their eyes are glazed and they're just staring at you like, oh gosh, how much longer till lunch? Yeah.
And you're just like not sleeping the night before because you're like, that your whole routine is going to be different in the morning. And you just have no idea what is going to happen. So I love that you guys are focusing on those like executive functioning skills, like first and foremost. Like, is that like, what would you call that your priority, the first like week of school?
Definitely. Yeah. So, I know with parents, those supply lists can feel like, oh, here's one more thing I have to like knock out and get and have, but it's really important because when they're coming in with those, notebooks, I like to say we hit the ground running. We're going to get those binders organized and ready to go so that we can kind of start utilizing them. Because even though they're in 7th grade, we're still kind of training them to use those different materials effectively and, take them out of their lockers and get them back in their lockers and not have, 96 coats stacked and, things they can't find. So, executive functioning is huge. And it's something we're working on, from that very first moment when they walk in to, for the most part, when they're leaving us and heading into, the next grade.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about like how you decide what structures and routines that you're going to implement for the year.
Like I said, that as we kind of like start the school year, helping the kids really know and learn, their schedule. That's something that's, really important so that they know, each day, this is going to be where you're going and where you're heading. Something else that we really want to prioritize with middle schoolers is helping them kind of learn to prepare and plan ahead. So, okay, if you have a vocab test or quiz on Friday, what is the week going to look like for you to kind of like prepare and get ready for that? Because the 5 minutes before the quiz is probably not going to be give you the best outcome that you're looking for. So, kind of just helping them become effective students. That's something that we're constantly working on. So understanding how you're coming in, where you're going, and then kind of how to navigate the school day and then each of your subject areas as successfully as possible.
And that's really something they can carry throughout their whole life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're working with middle schoolers, so this becomes an even bigger issue than the younger kids, I would think, is attention and technology. So we had a podcast interview a few months back with Carrie Brown from Beach Acres, and she talked a lot about how the attention spans are changing with kids and it's affecting their learning. I imagine with middle schoolers, that's even a bigger jump because they have so much more technology at their fingertips. So what do you do like at the beginning of the school year? How do you get students engaged?
Great question. So we're a 1-to-1 school district. So every student has a district provided Chromebook from, I believe it's grades 4 through 12.
Okay.
And it's so interesting because years ago there was this big push. Every kid's got to have a Chromebook. Every kid has to have, technology at their fingertips. And once Anxious Generation came out, what we're realizing is that we're putting tools into kids' hands that they're not necessarily able to navigate as effectively as we always want them to be, and they're becoming addicted to it. So, We use a specific learning management system called Schoology. So a lot of the instruction, a lot of the different materials that we're using are linked through technology and with their Chromebook. But what I will say is we're trying to do everything that we can to pull away from technology when we can. So we're going to do book circles or literature circles and have, students not necessarily reading using books online. They're just going to have regular old paper books, and we're going to have conversations about that. So one of the things that we're just trying to do as much as possible is have them interacting, not necessarily digitally, but building, relationships in person and talking and socializing and doing all of those things as much as we can. So kind of putting the Chromebook aside when we have the opportunity to do that.
Do you notice a difference in attention over the 26 years that you've been teaching?
Absolutely. So when I started, this is funny. So I started teaching in 1998. And there was like a computer lab in the little school that I taught in, but the amount of technology that we have now is crazy. The kids have their phones. Even their bikes are electric now. So there are just so many things that they have access to that have just sort of expedited things. So every opportunity that we can give to them to kind of like pull back and just have human connection is really what we're pushing for.
And what about the teachers, like in their use of technology? How do you manage your own technology use in the classroom?
What's interesting is that too, as teachers, we're being given all of this professional development on AI and how to use AI to make our jobs more efficient. So it's almost like we're being given more, but we're almost taking more back from our students, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So our job is seemingly easier with different tasks that we're able to utilize AI for. But the whole, management and care, there's no AI that you could ever put on that
right.
With our students.
Well, and even like, as we've been talking so much about the executive functioning skills, that's something that...
Absolutely. All of this needs to be, in person and taught. It's not something that a tech tool is able to instill or teach you.
So what have students like over the years taught you about back to school transitions? Like what have you actually learned from them?
So much. Kids are the best. I had a year where I have a block schedule. So I have students for like 94 minutes. I have 3 different blocks of students, and this was a really boy heavy year. And so I had an entire 94 minutes with a whole class of boys.
Wow. A whole class of boys.
And it was actually our COVID year. And so with that, I was like, okay, our read aloud is totally changing. And we're going to be taking some movement breaks throughout class. So I think different years with different students, you just have to figure out what works best for that crew. But my students are teaching me things all the time. I think that's one of the most important things as a teacher. You have to be open to their feedback in order to, grow as the person who's sort of like helping to guide them. So I'm learning from them all the time. But that's one particular year that stands out from when it almost was like, throw everything away. Let's start fresh and replan and figure out what we're going to do to make sure that everybody's as engaged as they possibly can be.
Yeah. Okay, so let's speak a little bit more about the students specifically and what are they going through during this transition? I mean, I can speak what I felt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what are students how are they transitioning?
So, when I think August 1 hits and so many of our kids in the district where I get to teach, they're involved in so many things. There are so many clubs and different activities. So a lot of our students, before the school year even starts, they're starting cross country or football or volleyball or, they're in soccer or they're in band. They're doing all kinds of different things. So it's good that they're starting some of that because their mornings start and they know they have to get sleep. So not only are they starting these new activities that they've potentially never done, earlier in their, along with their school day. So they're going straight from school to practice. And so that's a huge transition for a lot of our kids. They have a really long day. We're expecting them to get up and get started and sit and learn all day. And then on top of that, we're adding, potentially a 2-hour practice on top of that. So I think that this transition of back to school can be a little daunting. I think it's good. I think a lot of our students thrive with a lot of that structured activity. But we also need to be mindful that when so much is structured, they also need time to be kids and play and, get to do what kids want to do. So it's a lot.
What do you take, what do you notice most the first few days? I mean, these students are coming in, they're starting, they got their new routines, new friends, there's so much new they're coming into. So what do you notice? What do you notice about how children react to that transition?
A lot. And I think as teachers teaching a lot of these students for the first time, we're looking for those things. We're looking, do they have someone that they're feeling connected to? When they go down to lunch, is there a person that they're sitting with? When we're out at recess, is there someone that they're feeling connected to? Are they involved in things? So really those first days, those are the things that we're kind of looking out for, making sure that they're adjusting and transitioning positively. And then if they're not, we're trying to do whatever we can to help with that. So in my building, 6th grade, we can go down and talk with 6th grade teachers and say, hey, I just wanted to check in about this student. I'm noticing this. And then reaching out to parents and making sure that when that student goes home that they're feeling comfortable and confident at school. And if they're not, we're going to sort of build that home to school connection so that they feel good about what's happening at school.
How do you, you start by talking to the parents and teachers, but how do you actually build that home to school connection?
It's connecting as much as you can. So it's, in our 7th grade, we're sending weekly emails home. We have something called light cards at our school, which are kind of special. So when you see kids doing, I'm going to drop the ball and my teammates are going to kill me if they're watching this, but leadership, integrity, generosity, honesty, and teamwork. So we're looking for the kids to be, showing up for those areas or in those areas and sending, little notes home. Again, I live in the same community where I teach. So it could be me finding a parent at Kroger and saying hey, so good to see you. How is, so-and-so feeling about school? We also have meet the teacher nights. So parents have the opportunity to kind of come in, and those always end up a little bit longer because, we're meeting these students, but we do have that opportunity to connect with the parents and just kind of do check-ins. So it's lots of different ways that we're working to build that connection, bringing families into school for the different activities that we're doing. And like I said, just kind of being out at the community, going to the kids' sporting events and kind of caring about them and having that opportunity for parents to also see that, I'm not just in the classroom, but I'm also, going to be cheering on the sidelines too.
It's pretty amazing. I think people forget that teachers do so much more than just teach the curriculum. There's a lot involved.
Yeah. And I think we do kind of sometimes forget that. And my kids have had amazing teachers too, who are, sending those emails and cheering for them on the sidelines and, finding those really the good that they're doing. And so when you receive that as a parent, as a teacher, you want to do that too. And you want to make sure that those kids feel noticed and a part of something. So there's obviously a wide range of learners that come in every new school year. And you kind of mentioned that your class of boys, where you kind of had to pivot everything. So how do you go about kind of trying to set up your classroom before the school year starts to kind of accommodate just as many, not knowing that you don't know the kids, right? Before the school year, you don't get to meet them. So not necessarily. There are times where we'll do different transition meetings and things like that with students. If we recognize that there might be someone who's really apprehensive or might have some big challenges, we may have some sort of little meeting before the school year ends in order to make sure that transition's a little bit easier. Hey, this is going to be your language arts teacher, and having that opportunity. But before the school year even starts, so those in-service days that we have as teachers, we have 3. in my district, we're having meetings. So we're having 504 and IEP meetings in order to make sure that when that student walks through our classroom on that first day and we're meeting them, we do have some background. So if they're a student that needs a little bit more love and care, we're going to make sure that they have their needs met from that moment that they walk in. So it's not as though I may be seeing them for the first time, but I have some background so that when they come in, they can hit the ground running and be headed towards success right away.
And so then you're able to, especially with those 504 and IEP plans, you kind of have the classroom kind of ready for those kids specifically.
Absolutely. And we also have other personnel. So the intervention specialist that works at my grade level, she's outstanding. And so she's ready to go and in these classrooms as well, and really kind of helping us set up and get going so that the kids are as successful as possible.
So what about, all right, the teachers themselves? We talked a little bit about how you kind of prep for the back to school, but what does that transition? Do you guys not sleep the night before the first day of school too, or is that?
It's funny. I'm fine now. It's because I feel like when the school year starts, I have kids who are involved in all the things. So we've been going since, August 1st, it seems like. But no, I don't tend to not be able to sleep. I know that that's pretty common. There are some Sunday nights, though, the Sunday scaries I'll get. Yeah. But no, I'm usually just pretty excited. I don't know, those first few days are really exciting to get to see this new crew. But yeah, that's absolutely a thing where there are nights where you can't sleep and you're nervous about something, or you're worried in a good way because you want to make sure that things go as you hope they do. And
do you feel like it's the beginning of the school year, it's a different kind of energy, or does it drain you a little bit more than the rest of the year? Is there or does it, you're 26 years in, so you're pretty veteran at this point, but
it's so exciting. And that's kind of the beauty of teaching. I know some jobs, it just maybe feels like, okay, it's day after day, but every year's new. Every year's a new start, a new group of kids, kind of a new challenge that you have. So I don't know. I look forward to it. I'm a little sad this year, like I said, because my youngest is heading off to 8th grade and I'll never have another one of my kids in the same grade again. That's just how it goes. But it's exciting. It's exciting to get to kind of start over. And if there was something maybe that you felt wasn't awesome about the year before, or maybe there's something awesome that you want to see get even better, you have that opportunity.
How do you decide what needs to happen right away?
Great question. So with my team, so I teach on an interdisciplinary team. So there's 2 language arts teachers, 2 math teachers, a science and a social studies. So for from a teaching standpoint of language arts, we're kind of connecting and figuring out how we can teach all the standards within our window of time. But as a team, it's kind of how are we going to kind of prepare and get kids ready to do all the things that we need them to do. So it's really a team effort and collaboration on kind of just deciding what we do and when we do it and all of that kind of stuff.
What advice would you give new teachers kind of coming into a new school year?
Even right now, my advice would be if you want to be in your classroom and you want to be decorating, go do it. Because I was in that place, absolutely. And it was something I couldn't wait to go buy the borders and go set up my bulletin boards and do all of that. So if that brings you joy, go do that. But also if you're a veteran teacher or you're even a brand new teacher and you feel like you need some more summer, spend time and enjoy and do just that. I think sometimes with social media, we can kind of get caught up in oh gosh, I should be doing or I need to do, and do what works best for you and what's going to put you in the best headspace possible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just find what gives you the good energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I imagine, especially those first few days of school, the kids are kind of vibing. It's exhausting. They're kind of vibing your energy as well.
Totally.
So what can families do to kind of help get kids ready for back to school?
So I think probably the 2 most important things, we always try to do this as much as we can, but that sort of adjustment to what does school bedtime look like the school year bedtime, trying to the couple of days before the start of the school year, start adhering to that. And then, trying, some of those earlier morning wake ups if your students have been sleeping until noon every day. So just kind of getting into that bed and wake up schedule is important. And kind of, as I mentioned before, the supplies are really like kind of critical because you're starting the school year and we're trying to do what we can to kind of get organized. So having those and having the kids kind of ready to go is really helpful. And also as a parent, I know that the emails, like I said, can be a lot, but making sure that you're opening those just so that you're not missing, some of those really important things that kids do want to be a part of. So I would say those couple of things as you head into August 1, you can have silenced them through July, but perhaps, just knowing that those are coming and they're just kind of full of information.
Yeah. So what do you wish parents knew before, like about the first few weeks of school?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that, it can feel overwhelming as a parent, as a parent and a teacher. I'm going through that too. And I kind of like to stress that when we have our Meet the Teacher, like I get it. I get that you're not only getting school emails, you're probably getting things through like Team Snap and Game Changer and Team Meals and all of these things. Do what you can, there's a lot of things. And I always take things like day by day. So I know like I can get through today. We're going to navigate all the things that today, and then we'll move on to tomorrow when tomorrow comes. But just kind of having a little plan to make it, as easy of a transition as possible. And if you have older kids or even kids that have, different capabilities, let them pack their lunches. Let them get their backpacks organized, like set up a system where they're charging their Chromebook. Because as a parent, that can probably feel really overwhelming. Give your kids, some of the responsibilities of those things. And they're going to drop the ball on those things, definitely. But it's a good time to practice and kind of get into a routine and let them take ownership over their learning and what they're doing.
It's kind of helping to reinforce those executive functioning skills from the home side as well. So what are some of the things that like parents should look for in case their kid's not on their end, like if their kid's not transitioning into back to school very well?
I think that's an immediate reach out. Feel free to send, a quick email. Those are probably going to be things we're noticing at school too. And we'll absolutely reach out as well. If we're seeing so-and-so come in and each day somehow there's no backpack or, those are going to be immediate things that kind of like a red flag that we're going to notice and we're going to reach out about. But don't hesitate to reach out to the teachers because we absolutely want to work to do what we can to help that child be as successful as possible.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like how you can tell if it is just back to school nervousness versus like a bigger issue that if you're a parent or a teacher that you really need to address with the child.
I think, when you're seeing, your child is kind of like obstinate about like, I'm not going to school. There's some like natural nervousness, but there's definitely, when they have a stomach ache or they're making themselves sick, like that's problematic. When they are absolutely not wanting to come to school, then those are definite things that we need to know about so that we can kind of work through and problem solve to make that situation easier because that's not typical for a child to be feeling that way.
So we'll switch it to a little lighter note here. What's one of your favorite back to school traditions in the classroom?
Back to school, oh, that's a good one. When my kids were really little, it doesn't always work this way anymore, but when my kids were little, in my little neighborhood, we would always have like pizza and, in the front yard that first day of school. And I think it was last day of school too. So when they're little, like those little celebrations are so fantastic. That was probably one of my favorites. The neighbors just all kind of gathered and everybody got to talk about their day. Now, sadly, they're bigger and off at sports and all of that. But I try to do like out to dinner, back to school, or ice cream for sure. So I think that's probably one of my favorites, like Dairy Queen after the first day of school if it can happen. But just taking the time to hear about those little first day things. I'm terrible about the first day of school pictures.
Yeah.
I know some parents are so fantastic with their chart and their what year it is. I mean, but again, those are things that as a parent, like I knew that wasn't something I could hang on to. So I'm going to give that up and I'm going to be okay with it.
That makes sense. What about as a teacher?
Back to school tradition.
Yeah. Do you have any classroom traditions?
Gosh, I don't know. Because each year I feel like maybe I come up with something different or change. So there's no specific book that I necessarily read with them because that changes year after year. That's something I have to think about. I don't know that I have one specific tradition or something that I've done every single year with my students.
That's interesting.
But something to think about.
Yeah. So, well, now I want to brainstorm ideas with you, but we'll do that.
You do that after.
We can do that later. So what is your like kind of favorite and least favorite thing about like back to school season?
My favorite used to be like going out and buying all the supplies with my kids. Like go and we'll just stock the cart and it'll be amazing. But now it's like $1 billion. So my current favorite thing is that they provide, like if you sign up in advance, I think it was like July 1st was the deadline, but they do like boxes and that have all the supplies. So knowing that they're packed and ready to go and everything is going to be in that box that my child is going to need for the year. Is that
offered through the school or is that something?
Yeah, it's something that our PTO, I think, does it. And I was like, oh, we're never doing that. That is never say never because it's now my favorite thing that on the day when my kid packs up or figures out his locker, we get that box and we're ready to go with all the things.
Wow.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's a favorite, but I appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. What about least favorite thing about back to school?
I love, it's not necessarily that they're slow mornings, but I love the summer. It's just kind of, we get up and everybody, kind of gets out the door to their babysitting job or their work job or their wiffle ball. And I miss those like kind of slow mornings, walking my dog a little slower, not kind of dragging him around the block as fast as possible to race off to school. So I would say slow mornings for sure.
Yeah.
There's something I love about summer.
So you're working in a district that's obviously very, it has their 11 weeks of summer and then it goes back to school. I've noticed a lot of schools and a lot of districts shortening the summers, which I assume is probably an attempt to kind of start going to more year-round schooling. What are your thoughts on that?
So my take on it is that kind of with the way testing has worked, with like state testing and AP testing, there are so many days of instruction that need to be had before those, assessments are given. So I think districts are more, that's been a little bit more of the focus is instructional time and making sure that we're having as much learning as possible for our kids to be as successful as they can be. I don't know. I haven't really put much thought into year-round school because I feel like maybe by the time something like that were to come, I'll probably be retired by then. But I do have friends in other states that don't mind the year-round schooling at all. It's just been something that they've kind of been able to adapt to. So I don't know that that's necessarily going to happen here in Cincinnati, Ohio, but
yeah, I hear about it more in like some neighboring states and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I always think back and like if I would have had that as a kid, as I already talked about, my anxiety-driven back to school was awful. So I think year-round schooling probably would have been better for me. But
okay, yeah.
But then I have so many friends that would be like, oh, I'd miss the summer months.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
But what do you think people should do differently during back to school season? Teachers or families or students, any of it?
I don't know. I would say differently. I would say maybe assess how it went for you last year. And if things didn't go maybe as smoothly as you wanted them to, like how could it look different? I know that sometimes it's a time where families are like, oh, let's take a quick vacation before. That doesn't work for my family. We need to kind of have had, all of our family time and we're kind of just back in. But I don't know that I could sort of say what another family should do or not do differently. I just kind of know what works for my family. And I know that adjusting the bedtime, adjusting wake up time, and just feeling like, okay, we're kind of nearing the end and heading into a new routine.
Yeah.
Just kind of having that preparation has worked for us.
Just getting people into the new routine.
Yeah, definitely.
Walk me through the beginning of the school year and talk about how you go about introducing the time timer to your classroom.
So I use it throughout the course of my day. I typically am going to use the app version with my students, but the very first day of school, because my students are often in small groups, or they might be working with partners, or they may have, their own quiet work time. I'll kind of show them what the timer looks like and how it works, and give them a little kind of window of time. So, for example, for this task, we have 2 minutes. And so off you go. And when you hear, I have a doorbell in my classroom as well, because sometimes the timer isn't loud enough over the kids. So when it goes off, I can also do the doorbell to kind of grab their attention. But it's something that I'm going to utilize with them from the very first day of school, so that they know you're going to be timed with different tasks. I think kids need to know that there's a finite window of time that they're going to have to attend to a task. And so utilizing the time timer for that is perfect. So it's something I'll start off with just in that first day of school. So you have 2 minutes. I'm going to set the timer. And when you hear it go off, we're going to pause, and then we're all going to come back together. So essentially that's one way that I'm going to use it probably the most frequently in my 7th grade classroom. I also might, let's say later on in the school year, a student's working at their desk on a specific task, and they're a real visual learner that they need to see. We have 15 minutes. In that 15-minute window of time, I need you to get this and this and this done. And so they might take that timer right back to their desk, and have the visual kind of ticking down, as well as the different tasks that they need to focus on. So those are probably the most 2 common ways. I also might have it up on my desk. When I'm doing conferences with students, I often do writing conferences with them. This is the amount of time that we're going to be here. If you think you can get done, put your name on the board, and then you can come conference with me within that 20-minute window of conferencing time that I have. So those are probably the most common ways that I utilize it within my classroom. And like I said, introducing it that very first day of school.
Do you find that the students are already familiar with time timer concept, or how do you actually show them what it does and how it works?
A lot of our teachers are utilizing sort of that, the time timer as well, but just that window of time that kids are working within. So it's not difficult for them to transition to or to understand. It's kind of just oh, okay, next grade level, here we go. Same thing, just different school year.
So you kind of talked about a few ways that you implement it throughout the year. Do you feel like there's, any additional uses that you can think of that you could implement it into the classroom? Yeah.
So we have kind of group workrooms with students as well. We do a lot of different project-based learning for service learning, and then we have a big debate unit. So students may head into just a different location within our hallway. So I can send them with that timer and say, I need you to be back, when this time is up. So it gives kids, accountability in what they need to accomplish in that window of time that they're given.
And you're using it right now with 7th graders, but you've taught other grades. Did you use it with the other grades as well?
Definitely. First grade, that visual is huge. Being able to kind of, see that amount of time that they have. But I mean, honestly, students understanding the amount of work that they need to get done or completed, or the amount of time that they have, is kind of critical at every grade level. So it's definitely useful.
And you find that they can comprehend the time timer easily at every grade level.
Absolutely. And even utilize it themselves. And I'll have some students who will just ask for it so that they have that visual in front of them. It's not just on my phone and going off at kind of an obscure time. Instead, they can physically see what needs to get done in that span of time.
So if you're talking to a new teacher about implementing a time timer in the classroom, what would you say to them?
I would say definitely utilize it. It's definitely something that you would absolutely get your money's worth, just because kids need to learn that time management. I think as adults need to also have time management. I think as a brand new teacher, sometimes when we're thinking, oh, it's just 5 minutes, 5 minutes can seem like an eternity, or 5 minutes can seem like, very quick. So just having that accountability piece is really critical kind of all the time.
Talk about how you might use the timer in the classroom, but then how it could also potentially be used at home.
So with a lot of our students, it can be really helpful for them to have visuals. So when they come into the classroom and let's say we have a change in our daily schedule, we might make sure that student is provided with a schedule so that if lunchtime has changed, there's not, any sort of upset feelings over that. But also I have had parents who have said, my child's spending like 2 hours on this assignment and they should maybe be spending no more than 10 or 15 minutes. I could recommend to a parent, like, this might be a really good visual for you to have at home. Set that timer, send them up to their room, and then they need to check back in because a 2-hour window of time on a 10-minute assignment isn't necessary. So I would definitely recommend for parents to even utilize it if they're finding that their child is really struggling with their own personal time management with assignments or maybe even just different tasks that are happening around the house.
Do you feel like it helps with the back to school routine?
Absolutely.
At home or in the classroom?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm used to when my kids were little and in timeout, we had the microwave timer so they could watch that tick down. So I think it could kind of be along those same lines as well. If there's a task that maybe is seeming too lengthy or maybe isn't going on for long enough, utilizing that as a tool could definitely be beneficial and maybe make some positive impacts on that child at home as well.
Do you see it as being a solution that, like, if it was at both home and in the classroom, it could benefit certain children?
Definitely. Having that continuity of like, oh, okay, it's here and then it's also there. It's definitely, students are definitely going to have the ability to see that it's impactful in both places.
Finish these sentences for me.
Okay.
Students thrive when?
Students thrive when they know you care about them and they feel like a connection. When they know there's care and you are concerned about whether or not they're there and what they're involved in.
What teachers thrive when?
I'd probably say the same thing.
Yeah, that's probably true.
That care and connection is huge. Also for me, I love structure, and I think students are going to thrive in structure as well. When they know what's coming and what to expect.
Setting expectations.
Yep, definitely.
Families help the most when?
That's a good one. They're supportive. So, and just having sort of that idea that, schools are looking out for your child's best interest.
Yeah. And then beginning of the school year goes best when?
The beginning of the school year goes best when, I don't know that there's like a specific thing that can sort of be a predictor of that, but gosh, I don't know. That's a good one.
Maybe we can go back to your care and support.
Yeah,
when everyone's
absolutely.
just caring and supportive of each other.
Absolutely. That care and support for sure.
So where can people find out some more about you as a teacher and kind of what you do?
So I have like a Facebook page. And then, so back in the day, this is probably like early 2000s, I started a blog, which is mrsbeers.com. So I'll still like write about, little things. And one of the things that I've loved doing is having the chance to create resources for my classroom that I've also had the chance to post for other teachers to utilize. So if you check out mrsbeers.com, you can find all those tips and tricks and all that kind of good stuff.
All right. Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been such a great conversation. I'm getting over my anxiety of back to school season. You make it sound so easy and wonderful, and enjoyable. So thank you for joining me. And this has been a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Rethink Time. Don't forget to subscribe and visit timetimer.com for supporting tools and resources. Make every moment count.